Welcome to today's Tonal Talk. I'm Jenna Moore, Senior Manager of Performance and Talent. And today I'm joined by Jacob Rauch, Senior Manager of Performance and Applied Training Science. Together, we're breaking down the Ultimate Program Guide. 16 training tracks, 166 programs, and 464 weeks of progressive, science-backed programming designed to help Tonal members reach their goals with clarity and confidence. Jacob, welcome. I am so excited for you to be here today and to dive into all things the Ultimate Program Guide. So let's dive into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So tell me, as the lead performance expert on this project, what was the driving factor behind creating the Ultimate Program Guide?
Well, across all of our platforms, the top two questions we see time and time again from our members are, where should I start and what should I do next? And while we're constantly striving to improve the experience directly on trainer for content navigation, we figured the Ultimate Program Guide, or revamping the previous version of the Ultimate Program Guide, was the perfect opportunity to create a physical artifact that both incoming members and our long-term Tonal veterans could use to navigate and create these, long-term training experiences.
I love that. And it's a revamp. So this is not the first one, but this is the most recent. So it incorporates a lot of our recent program releases that have come out over the last, 4 or 5 years, but all the way up through 2025 timeframe.
Exactly, yeah.
I love that.
Just so.
So I want to talk about the difference there about using something like the guide, which has these long-term training tracks, versus choosing a one-off program. What would be the benefits or trade-offs there?
So there is a massive amount of overlap between one-off programs and these long-term tracks. Both of them are going to orient around these key training principles: specificity, individualization, and progressive overload. The two key differences are enabled by the time scale. So in the one-off programs, we're making sure we're progressing members from week to week. Where in these long-term tracks, we're doing week-to-week progressions, but we also have the ability to make sure our members are progressing month to month. Another key thing that we're able to do here is be more specific with how we manipulate load and distribute that load over time. So we're really able to distribute that volume and intensity to help our members have these long-term, efficient, engaging training experiences.
I love that. And yeah, I'm just such a fan of thinking about the future in mind when we are thinking about programming and training. It's, periodization in these long-term training tracks really allow us to kind of zoom out, think about the future, what our goals are down the road. And then it really gives you the roadmap of how to get to that goal without burning out or potentially overtraining. So it's just really smart, progressive ways of reaching your goals.
Totally.
I love it. So let's really get into it. How should members use this guide?
Yeah, so for context, when we made this guide, we wanted to make sure that members of every goal, every level, and every desired workout frequency could have a track for them. And so when you just think about that, there's all these different forks of tracks that could come out of it, which is why the guide ended up being about 40 or 50 pages. So we really wanted to create a single resource that can help them cut through the noise, and that's going to be this quick reference chart they can find on page 7. And so here they're going to go column by column, and we're going to start by identifying their level, whether you're beginner, intermediate, or more advanced. And just on that topic, if you know right away where you're at, great. If you're a little unsure, just level down. You're going to create more space for long-term progression, and the load and the exposure is still going to be perfect for you. So once you have your level, great. Unsure, level down. Next, we're going to pick your goal. If you have a hyper-specific goal, you want to build muscle, lose weight, increase strength, improve functional strength or performance, great. You're going to find the track that meets that. We also have tracks that are hybrid in goals. So they sort of combine a couple of goals into one experience. So if any of those jump out right away, then you're golden. But some of our members have expressed that they're a bit unsure about which track is right for them. And for those people, I'd say, try not to let it get too overwhelming. Yeah. The main thing is you want to pick a track that seems approachable, and because you're going to get so much of the benefit by showing up and training with intent. So just find a guide or a track that feels approachable for you that you can train with consistently. And then the last piece of the puzzle is, how often do you want to work out? Do you want to work out 2 times a week, 3, 4, or 5? And once you answer all those questions, that should do a really good job of pointing you in the direction of which track is right for you.
Yeah, so I hear a couple of key themes coming out there. Obviously, your frequency, how many days a week you want to train is really important in determining which track is right for you, but also consistency. Whatever you're going to be consistent with is the right one for you. And then the last nugget I loved there was if you're unsure what level you are, maybe just scale down. It's a safer place to start, build up that confidence, build up that consistency, and then level up.
Totally.
I obviously got to work with you a lot on this project, but talk us through training goals on Tonal and how those helped inform this guide as you were creating it.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, we expanded our training set from 3 goals to 7. And when our members select our training goals, they're really letting us know their specific adaptations or outcomes they want to achieve through training on Tonal. What that allows us to do is surface relevant workouts specific to them and their unique combination of goals. And fundamental underneath all of that is this really granular content scoring system. And simply put, that enables us to, yes, give you workouts specific to your goal, but it also helps us really fine-tune some of these training variables. So when it comes to long-term path planning, we're able to be very precise with how we're manipulating both load and intensity, not only from week to week, month to month, but we have some tracks that go up to 52 weeks. So we are very meticulous. The performance team, the data science team, and product, we've put a lot of work into making sure that this long-term track is objective and precise.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So I want to double click into a couple of the programs and start to break them down a little bit. Let's start by talking about some of the tracks for beginners. Can you walk us through Fit to Move 1? Who's it for? What can our members expect as they progress through a track like that one?
Yeah, so Fit to Move is actually my favorite track. And just for context, this is the same track I would give my mom, who's 65, has signs of osteoporosis and has arthritis as well. And she's, started and stopped strength training in the past. It's also the same track I'd give my brother-in-law, who's in his 40s, and he has a much greater strength foundation, but he has never undergone a formal strength training block or trained with a personal trainer. So what you're going to find in the first phase of this is we're learning the basics. We're learning these fundamental foundational movement patterns. We're learning how to move our body through load, and we're also getting to learn how to use the tonal itself. So the first 8 weeks is just mastering the basics. And even if you are experienced or you've been training on tonal for a while and you just want to come back to refining the basics, it's a great foundation, especially the first 8 weeks. Phase 2, we're building on that foundation, and now we're starting to build some work capacity. So movement quality is going to be the thread that connects all these phases, but now we're going to expand into some longer sets, some higher rep ranges. We're building that foundation of load, which brings us into phase 3, where now we have the movement mechanics, we have a foundation of load, and now we're going to learn how to apply force with a bit more intent and a bit more higher velocity movements. So by the end of this, you know how to move, you have a foundation, and you can produce force fast, and then you're ready for any other track on Tonal.
That is so key when anybody is getting started out. I always say build that foundation, then build your walls, and then decorate it at the end with your curtains and your furniture. And so it sounds like these tracks are really doing that for our members. And honestly, sounds like doesn't matter if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. All of those things, sometimes it's great for anybody of any level to take a step back and relook at the foundation at any point in their training journey. And those things can really help them progress if maybe they've reached a plateau or they've stalled in their progress. So I absolutely, I love that. I want to switch gears a little bit now, talk about maybe a little bit more of an advanced track. So maybe talk to me about the Muscle Maker track or maybe Built to Lift, one of those.
We'll start with Muscle Maker, and then I'll tap on you to help with Built to Lift. Muscle Maker is for our advanced members' primary goal, building muscle. There's a track of 3 workouts a week, 4 workouts a week, and 5 workouts per week. And while the progression model is simple, it's a far from easy track. But what you can expect in this track is each phase is going to increase your average weekly volume. And what we know to build muscle, we want to maximize mechanical tension, and one way to do that is by progressively increasing the volume we do. Another really cool thing about this track is after each phase, we build in a deload. So this is when you're sort of reducing some of that metabolic load, and you're able to give your chance to recover so you can bring in the intensity into that next phase, again, to maximize attention and to maximize the volume. And like myself and many of our other members, you're not always going to give yourself the deload. So we're hoping that it's on paper, you've just done 12 weeks of training, give yourself the deload so you can train with the next phase harder. And you can do that across 3 different tracks. So that's one of my, again, I guess I'll say every track's my favorite here. So I don't want to do that, but it's really effective. It's really simple. I think our members are going to love it. And Built to Lift is a slightly different approach to building muscle, and you're incorporating strength as well. And when I joined the Tonal community, I kept hearing, accumulation and intensification, and I got to learn from you, Troy and John, about how we bring that to life in our community. And you really inspired this track, and you told me, find the programs that help us apply an 8-week accumulation block followed by a 4-week intensification block. And when we're structuring this, we're able to really cycle the volume and intensity so we can build muscle, build strength without overdoing it. And the last thing I'll say, then I want to get your take on this, is if you have this guide and pull it up, you can really see the beautiful dance between volume and intensity visualized on the track. It really is like, there's an art and a science to programming and coaching, and it's beautiful to see these acute training variables play out. And the last note I'll say is, in addition to fluctuating volume and intensity, you'll see as you progress throughout this track, you're going to train with greater volumes and greater intensity over time. But I know you were pretty instrumental in bringing this track to life. So maybe you could expand on why you like to alternate these phases.
Yeah, I think it comes down to smart training. You started by talking about the fact that we brought in some deload weeks, which is really important. I've worked with a lot of clients and people who maybe were having struggle finding their goals, and they were plateauing, and they were just not seeing the progress they wanted. And it's got to go backwards to go forwards. And so sometimes taking that pause, taking that deload week was the thing that unlocked their ability to push past those plateaus. The same thing can happen when we have really strategic purposes of manipulating our intensity and load. So when we're working these different ends of the strength spectrum, we're working those heavy sets, we're working a neural end of the spectrum. And so it's much more intense on our central nervous system, but the volume is a lot less. Then we move to the other end of the spectrum and we're working high volume. That stresses our metabolic system in a different way. So you almost don't have to necessarily take a deload because you're training different ends of this spectrum, and it stresses your body and your nervous system in different ways, that while one end of the spectrum is being worked, the other end of that spectrum is recovering. So then when you switch it back between accumulation and intensification, you're able to really fluctuate that without taking a break. So you can continue your training journey and you can continue to progress. You can add volume without the negative maybe side effects of overtraining or plateauing, because you've systematically, you've just trained smart with the way that you've alternated your intention and your progression and the load. So it's just one great way of manipulating your training to help you continually make progress without necessarily having to completely go to a different program or completely change your goals to reach progress.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like people usually say, train, smarter, not hard. I feel like this is a track that's train smart and train hard,
and hard, yeah.
at the same time.
You can, if you do it smart, you can do it both ways. Yeah, I love that. So this has been incredibly insightful, but I do want to move into some member questions that we've received in the OTC, our official Tonal community on Facebook. But Jake, I think you have the first question.
Yeah, so a lot of the questions we've seen are around women who want to be mindful of their training. And they're saying they want to do high load, low rep training, which I think we all agree is great. But some of them are a bit timid of doing too much volume or high intensity training. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to be either general or specific as it relates to the Tonal community and this guide specifically for that, that perimenopausal community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a really important topic, and definitely want to get into it some today, and then definitely maybe we can expand upon it in the future. But at the end of the day, we want to do anything and everything to encourage women to strength train. As it is right now, just over 25% of women are meeting the weekly standard for strength training, 2 to 3 sessions per week, hitting the muscle groups. So we want to continually encourage strength training for females, males and females, but for females specifically who aren't meeting that weekly recommendation. Now, whether you like to lift heavy or that is intimidating to you, that's not the issue. Having a fear of lifting in general is more of the issue. So if lifting heavy is intimidating and that's the thing that's preventing you from getting into strength training, then know that you can train at, again, we talked about the spectrum of low reps, high load, and high reps with a lower load. You can train anywhere on that spectrum and make progress. So plenty of research, meta-analysis have shown that you can build muscle mass, maintain muscle mass, as well as bone mineral density with as low as 40% of your 1RM. So you can really train upwards of 15 reps and still find value and still get the benefits of maintaining muscle mass, maintaining bone mineral density with the lighter loads, not necessarily have to lift heavy if that's the thing that's preventing you from doing it. If you like lifting heavy, I love it, then go for it. And absolutely, as long as you're not a person new to exercise who doesn't have those foundational skills that we talked about in the Fit to Move tracks, the beginner tracks, definitely don't want to start there. You want to make sure that you build up those base levels of foundation and work capacity and injury resilience before you maybe go into those heavier loads. But if that's what you like to do, absolutely, there's great benefit in that. But it really comes down to the intention of the intended intensity or effort. So whether you're doing 5 reps or you're doing 12 reps, it really comes down to, are you getting close to failure? Are you getting to training to and at an intensity that's about 1 to 2 reps from reserve? For example, if I want to do a heavy set of goblet squats for 5 reps, if I do that with 5 pounds, I'm not going to be, for me, near failure or within 1 to 2 reps of failure. So for me, I'm going to have to do a lot more than 5 pounds. And so that's what we really want women to think about when it comes to strength training and intensity. It's not necessarily the number of reps you're lifting. It's really about the intended effort of those reps and making sure that they're lifting with a weight that is appropriate for that rep range. So at the end of the day, strength training is great at any rep range, and it has a lot of benefits for maintaining and gaining muscle mass as well as bone mineral density, but it really comes down to the intensity and the intended effort of that rep range.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like all roads lead to Rome in the sense of train with intent and train consistently. And something else I've seen from researchers in the community is, when in doubt, individualize your training. If you tolerate high rep, low load training a little bit better, go for it. Or if you personally tolerate, higher loads, lower rep, find the training stimulus that allows you to train with intent and close to your the rep ranges that, or the level of effort that you recommended, consistently. And as long as you do that and you're mindful of your personal recovery strategies, I think you'll be in a good spot.
I think it comes down to consistency. We said that a few times. It seems to be a common theme. But as long as you find that style of training that allows you to reach your goals and continue to progress, and you like showing up for those workouts and it feels good for you, you're able to recover from it, those are the symptoms that you're doing it right. And so I think that's the thing we want to focus on more is those personalized factors and those lifestyle factors. But let's talk about how we can take those training principles into the guide. So a couple of tracks that would work for this style of training for people who are looking for something that maybe is a little bit heavier. We have the Train Like an Athlete track. So this one's a little bit more performance focused. You want to tell me a little bit about that track? Yeah,
so Train Like an Athlete, the key metric that we're progressing you through is our performance content score. And the performance content score, the key inputs are moves that have a strong base of support, that you can move a lot of load with a lot of intent. And so that's going to be the consistent theme that progresses you throughout. You're also going to find higher loads and lower rep ranges in this track. So Train Like an Athlete promotes intent, high quality repetitions, a little bit of a different style compared to some of our weight loss and muscle building programs where these are a bit higher volume. So Train Like an Athlete, and we have some other ones that are great if your preferred training style is high load, low rep.
Yeah. The other one that is my favorite track in the guide is the Ultimate Strength and Power track.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that one.
Well, this is your favorite because you made sure this one was in there. When we were down to the wire of trying to lock everything in, you said, we need one more, primarily strength focused. So this one comes a little bit down to phase potentiation, but you have 2 strength blocks followed by a performance block. And this is more of our, intermediate and advanced style program. So if you're a beginner and you want to do, higher load training, I'd start with Train Like an Athlete. But if you're more advanced and accustomed to training, here you can expect 2 heavy strength blocks, and then you're going to translate all that strength and extra force production into a performance block, where we're really focusing on those higher velocity outputs and power, which is so great for both sport performance and sort of aging gracefully, or not even gracefully, but aging with performance in mind and maintaining performance and even improving performance.
I absolutely love it. So again, nothing wrong with heavy low rep training if you like it, unless maybe you're a beginner. Keep doing what you're doing. At the end of the day, evidence supports training at a large rep range is beneficial. And what matters most is the effort or intensity. So really finding that rep range and that intensity that is challenging for you in the moment. And we will continue to invest in programs that suit a wide range of female lifters as we maybe do the next program guide.
Yeah, that one comes out.
All right, let me get into the next question that has come from our community for you, Jake. So since the creation of the Ultimate Guide, obviously new programs have continued to be released. So therefore, we've gotten some questions around integrating newer programs into the guide. What would your recommendation be for that?
Well, to start, this is our second Ultimate Program Guide. So John Christie led the first one. So primarily, we are going to focus on eventually making this more dynamic. Mm-hmm. So eventually, this will either be on the web interface or on Trainer, where newer programs will get integrated and updated automatically. Our members do seem to like having this physical artifact. So maybe in a year from now, we have a third Ultimate Program Guide that primarily focuses on these new ones. But in the short term, we know our members love to do the community challenges and the fresh programs as they come out. And in that weekly newsletter that comes out alongside a new program, we're going to list a progression and a regression from that program. So that can help our members orient to where this new program fits into the guide. And when in doubt, you can always tag one of us in the Tonal community. And if you say, hey, I want to do this, all my friends are doing this, but I want to know where I should come back to after, and we'll make sure we're there for support. Because again, ultimately, this guide and everything we do is to help our members, enjoy their training and progress over time. So I'd say, in short, we have a couple irons in the fire for how we can continue to make the program guide relevant.
Yeah, and for sure, all of the new programs do fit somewhere in one of these tracks intentionally. Every time we're designing new programs and coming out with new releases, they are hitting maybe a different goal, or they are a progression from one program to the next. So there is always some path in which these new programs fit in with other programs to design some long-term periodization to meet goals.
And not to come back to content scoring, because that's our bread and butter, but we know exactly where every program fits. We know the programs below it. We know the programs above it. So our members don't have to worry about us being able to give them guidance. But now I'd like to turn the table to you a little bit. Another one of our big releases was Pilates. And we didn't have any Pilates programs in here when the time came out. What's your general or specific advice around how people can incorporate Pilates either into the guide or into their strength training goals in general?
Yeah, this is a great question. And again, with the recent launch of Pilates, it has come up of how to incorporate strength with Pilates. So strength training should remain the primary driver for your muscle growth, your bone density, your long-term performance. But Pilates has immense benefits that can help carry over into your performance with your strength training. So really thinking about Pilates from a movement quality perspective, you kind of talked about that. We are tapping into the beginner tracks and talking about it. So it really is a movement quality tool. It can help with mobility, stability, core strength. Joseph Pilates called it the powerhouse. That's everything from your shoulders down to your hips, because so much of your strength comes from the muscles in that area. And sometimes those areas can get neglected, or they're just ranges of motion that we don't move in traditional strength training. So the complementary nature of Pilates and how it carries over into your strength performance, those benefits are immense, and I would love to preach that from the mountaintops. I think the mind-muscle connection, the breath work, as I mentioned, the mobility and the stability that are gained from Pilates, and even things of working strength in these long end ranges that we don't always get to do in strength training. All of those things are incredibly important for our overall resilience. So when we think about strength training for longevity, Pilates and styles of training like that play a huge role in our long-term strength training journey. So I like to position Pilates as consistent maintenance. I think it should be like brushing your teeth. You should think of doing it regularly in between your strength workouts to really get the most amount of benefits for it. You don't want to just wait till you have a dentist appointment to go brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to wait till you're injured to say, okay, now maybe I'll do some Pilates, or I'm really sore. Maybe now is the time. Really think about doing it regularly, just like your mobility work, to see the benefits in the long term.
Yeah. I mean, on a side note, I had a dentist appointment yesterday and I did brush my teeth extra hard, but I've also told you this story. I like to work out 3 or 4 times a week, and I've started to integrate Pilates on that, 4th or 5th day of training, and I've had this nagging tight hip flexor for years, and I've started to do Pilates, and the example I gave, which I'm not exaggerating, I work out in my garage and I was just doing Pilates and my dog ran away and I had to sprint to go get him. I would have torn my hip flexor if I was not just doing Pilates. So I love it. I love it as a complement to my training, and I'm a firm believer in it either on its own or to supplement training. So yeah, thank you to you and the team for bringing that to life. And I think our members will definitely be able to integrate it into the program.
I think too, I'm a huge advocate for that mind muscle connection that it brings into my training as well. I started doing equipment-based Pilates and mat Pilates decades ago, but having gotten back into it more regularly in the recent years, I have found as a mom of a 2-year-old, I am a pre- and postnatal certified coach. And so after having a baby, I did all of my pelvic floor physical therapy and I did all of my core rehab. And I thought I had done a really good job of rehabbing my core. And then I went back to Pilates and I was humbled. So it even goes to show that there's just some things that we maybe aren't thinking of or not training in a specific way that Pilates hits that we just don't do in our regular strength training. So really going back to Pilates has helped me so much in rehabbing my core postpartum, but also it makes me show up to tonal in a different way in my strength training. A lot of times in strength, especially, I'm an early morning person who likes to work out first thing after I roll out of bed, but sometimes the coffee hasn't hit the veins yet. And so I show up and I go through the motions. I'm doing my goblet squat that I've done, thousands of reps before. But now after really being in the Pilates world and thinking about things very internally, I am such more present in my lifts. I'm thinking more about the intricacies of my form and technique, and it's really elevated my strength performance. And so I think that there's just a lot of huge benefits that people can take from something like Pilates and integrate it into their strength training to really unlock a whole new level.
Love it.
Yeah. So I would say if anybody, is really interested in adding Pilates, 1 to 3 sessions a week is great in between your strength workouts on your off days, or even as something to do before as like an extended core warm up or a muscle engagement tool, or even following as kind of an accessory workout. So Pilates can really be integrated into your week, however it works best for you. But I would say 1 to 3 sessions would be my recommendation. We also do have our brand new Strength plus Pilates program that came out in February, and that has 2 days of strength plus 2 days of Pilates classes for our intermediate users. So that's another great way of making sure you're meeting your recommendations of strength training and also getting Pilates in throughout the week.
Sounds like we got our members covered.
The Ultimate Program Guide is out now and linked in the description of this video. Be sure to check it out and share any questions that you have with us in the OTC, on social, or in the comments below. Jake, thank you so much for joining me today and diving deep into the Ultimate Program Guide. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.